Ever feel like you're being watched? Or maybe just the sensation of another presence, but you're all alone? With this new series of mine, I want to discuss all those things on the creepier side, starting with my own personal experiences. And boy, have I had a lot. Ever since I was little, my dad and I shared this strange inclination toward ghosts and the paranormal. He told me all kinds of things he'd seen, and helped from a very young age when I began to see and sense some of the same weird stuff too. The very first time that I can recall, I was only 5 years old. My dad and I were visiting his mother, my grandmother, and staying over for the night. On the first night there, once I was in bed, I kept having the strangest sense that my dad was still in the room with me. But he'd left like 15 minutes ago. I heard him walk the creaky floor all the way to the other side of the trailer. There was no other noises in the entire building. I was in a small room with a decently bright nightlight, so I could see everything. After all, I was still a very young child, so even a shadow of a knickknack could probably scare me. But my dad had a way of making sure that I was always comfortable. He'd made sure to bring the nightlight with me and plugged it in before he left. So I was fairly certain that if anyone was in there, I would see them. I couldn't sleep a wink with how nervous I felt. It was my first time staying over in a different house after all. The bed was really old and lumpy too, so I shifted uncomfortably for at least an hour or more before I started counting patterns on the tiled ceiling. There was a cloud, there was a puppy, there was some of the candy I had that afternoon. While I was doing this, I heard something very faint. Startled, I sat up halfway in bed and pulled up the covers. The noise was almost like the wind, but somehow softer. Somehow, it was within a few feet of me, and not coming from the windows. Then, an older man's crackling voice was distinctly coming from the foot of the bed. At first, I froze and just listened. I couldn't quite make out the words. Everything was so soft. It was almost like trying to hear somebody from another room with a very thick wall between you. But, being frozen in fear, all I really had that I could do was listen. Listen and try to wait for the ability to yell for my father. Slowly, as this person kept talking, this older man that shouldn't even be in the building, much less me being able to hear him whisper within the room I was in, I started to make out actual words. What was said somehow brought tears to my eyes. Even with how scared stiff I was, I couldn't help it. It seemed so familiar and warm, and the fear started to fade away. They said, "I'm so glad that I finally got to see you." Then he said my name so softly, similar to how I would hear my dad say it. Next to my feet, the blanket and mattress dipped down, and I could feel as if someone was sitting right there, like right on my toes. My blood went cold, and I stopped breathing for a time. I couldn't move again, but it wasn't the same feeling of fear. It was this heaviness, almost like a hug. Then, as quickly as the pressure came on, that I felt rooting me in place, it lifted. I ran to my father, who was up watching TV actually, right by his bedroom. He sat down with me once he saw how pale and obviously freaked out I was. Once I told him what had happened, he sat me down on his knee and asked me to describe the voice and any senses I had of the man. I said I hadn't seen him, but he encouraged me anyway, so I shut my eyes. He was tall and thin. He had old, sandy, and thinning hair, right up to the top on his forehead. There were big rimmed glasses that I thought were funny, because they kind of magnified his eyes and made him look a little bit cartoonish. He wore pants that were a bit too big for him, skinny and frail as he seemed, and a button-up shirt that had this faded stripe pattern. It was worn so many times. Now, it could have been a coincidence, but my dad just smiled and patted my head. He got up a moment and came back to blow off an old photo album from the closet. Within its pages, he showed me a few photos of his dad, the dad who died before I was born, in that very house, and in that very bed that I was left to sleep in. This was the first time I ever saw a photo of him, even though I'd heard stories about my grandpa from time to time. My grandma had kept her photo album tucked away, and my dad didn't have any at our house. He looked just like the man I described, the man I believed would fit the voice that I had heard, the voice that was so worn down from illness, but also so very warm and happy that he could see his granddaughter for the first time in the one spot that seemed like it could connect us, if only for one moment. As I grew, there were other times that I felt him. His presence, even a few times his voice, near me. I like to think that he watches over me, and that now that my dad has also passed, that he's there with him, watching over the girl that they both love. As she's grown into a woman throughout my life, until one day, I'll be able to see them again, and it won't be fleeting. I like that thought and that comfort. I'm not Christian, I'm pagan, but I do still believe in an afterlife. And I like to think that all the people that were dear to us, we will see again. Maybe this was a little bit heavy, emotional for my first scary story, but there will be more. They will be scarier. So just wait and see. I'm going to try to put up a video every week or every other week as we approach our spooky month. So please stay tuned, subscribe, like this video, and comment if you have any other scary stories of your own that you would like to share. For now, I'll see you later.